Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop making another marble. Thanks for stopping by. I've got pretty simple construction to do today. Today's word is self-care, or I guess that's a phrase, but we're starting out today with a little bit of anxiety. So we're just going to try and keep it mellow, keep it easy, and yet do something I haven't done before. That's the whole idea of this series, is trying to push beyond the boundaries a little bit, doing some things that involve a lot of similar, familiar steps to me, but delve off into something a little different. So just jumping right into using this 19mm rod. It's going to be the rod that we build our marble off of. And we're going to start out making a good sized gather, and then doing a little manipulations before we get started with any of our internal visuals. Basically just going to be doing some gold and silver fuming. We're going to try and put this together mechanically a little different. So just kind of start out cleaning off the cut end. And I don't think I fired up my other torch, so I'll have to get that up and running. So hope everyone is doing well out there. We're mid-November here. It's very mild weather, although it's quite dark outside right now and it's been raining this morning. It's kind of ridiculously mild. Got up this morning. I could already tell, I figured the house was still pretty warm, and I didn't even need to start a fire or turn on the heater or do anything. It was pretty normal temperature in the house. So get out here to the torch shop and don't have to turn on a heater or anything, which is not completely unusual right now for November, but we'll take it. Getting some moisture, that's always appreciated. So in order to do this first phase that I want to do, I need to start out with a pretty good sized bundle here. So this marble, this video, will be my 100th video on this weekly series that I've been doing. My initial goal was to try and do them for a year, make about 50 videos. And I've gone through periods of thinking, it's like, well, I'm going to just run out of ideas, and I don't know what I'm going to do. It's not really getting anywhere in particular, but for those of you that followed along, we're deeply appreciative of anybody watching these videos. It's been kind of a fun routine to keep me engaged and going with all this. I did try and clean off this rod to start with some alcohol and scrub it down a little bit, which really helps, because usually I get a lot of buildup in here that looks kind of funky that I start picking away at. But this is looking actually fairly clear. So we're going to leave that alone. Okay, got a good sized gather. Let this settle down because I've been heating over here on this feed-in area, and I want that to be solid now, and I want the end to be soft. So this step I'm going to kind of use some heat and gravity. It'll help determine if I'm getting the heat to the right level. You see it starts elongating. I should have cleaned off the end of this doodad, this little handle. I'll try and give this a tug, hold this out a little bit longer. So this is something kind of like what I had in my mind. So yeah, I've been pretty busy doing more torching the last couple of weeks than I have done in a long time. As far as a day-to-day going at it. We did have our little holiday festival sale last weekend. So I missed making a video last weekend. So I wanted to get this kind of oddball shape. And then I'm going to try some fuming. And kind of cook that in with some strong flame, something a little different. And we're going to run some gold fume up here on this section. Something kind of crazy like that. Alright, now we've got 3 dark colors. We've got some dark cobalt, dark amethyst, and just jet black. So my idea, if I can make this work, is to just lay down a string of dots. Now we have 3 colors. A series of dots I can do. Okay, let's switch to dark amethyst. Okay, and on to dark cobalt. Okay, well that's definitely a stranger thing. Get this warmed up. We've been messing around, losing all our base heat. Now from this stage, I need to transition this to the cone shape of our Vortex interior. So this is going to require some manipulations. handle on here. And of course, part of this process is burning out the fume that's just resting on the clear glass. I wasn't really sure how this was going to look as this condenses together, but kind of going as I expected. Not exactly coming together linear, but I didn't figure it would. Getting a little bit of a bender back effect. So I think I'll lose the handle here. sort of a bit lopsided. Get this to settle down. Sort of focusing on the fattest part. So get the main rod connection, get that as stable and shaped the way I want, and the end is going to be off center and going wonky. Then we come back and try and heat just towards the end. Start doing a little shaping. Kind of slowly coax this into a cone shape. As I get closer, it can get a little more aggressive. Calm this down. Oops. I paused just long enough to send it off center. Alright, and we're going to do another fume layer in the background. A little this, a little of that. A little silver there, and then some gold on the upper section. Alrighty, now I've got a pulled out piece of thick stringer of clear. And wrap this on. All right. Get this stuff melted in. Okay, that's all coming together. Now we're going to do some backing. And I was putting away this really tealy from my last adventure. And I thought, well, I shouldn't just put this away, maybe I should use it. So sometimes I've used blue spruce as a backing color. This is sort of similar. It's a real easy to work color. Okay. Keep wrapping this on. Okay, get down closer to this end and break away here. It's too easy to overheat this end. If you just continue to keep going around and around. Let's see. Got a bunch of pieces of this laid out. Kind of keep going around and filling in the cracks. Alrighty. All right. That's it for a second. grab a sip of coffee out of my his and hers dragon mug. I love that mug. All the artwork that Ray did on there. Okay, looking good. Now sometimes I would fume this backside. I think today I did a bunch of fuming already, so I'm going to leave this. It's probably not going to show through on the backside anyway. So this takes a minute. Fill in these. Take that cone shape to a round shape. So yeah, I mentioned self-care at the beginning of this video, and get into the holiday season. For a lot of people, there's been a lot of chaos in their lives, and anybody watching this video in the future can reflect back to what's going on in 2025. But we've managed to pull together in our household some rather good vibes, and good things are happening. And sometimes I feel kind of survivor's guilt for some of that we're, you know, we're far from rolling in it, but we might get there someday. But we're doing okay. A couple months ago it was not looking so good. So that's kind of the artist's way. Fortunes can change. And a lot of it, for me, just is getting my mind into the right headspace of being prosperous and successful, and get out of this constant doom scrolling attitude. So my heart goes out to those that are struggling, but there is hope. And there's a lot of good things happening in this world. Don't get much attention. Now, it doesn't really feel like it helps the individual in the moment to hear about good news somewhere else or in the bigger picture, but you know, I've been there. I know something about depression, anxiety, struggling to maintain a household. And right now we've got firewood for the winter, and we've got our snow tires on the Toyota, and we're ready for what comes. I'm pretty stocked up on glass. I bit the bullet and bought some gold the other day. Horrifying, but there it is. I'm not going to stop using gold in my glass work just yet. Okay, after that first layer, kind of heat in that glass, and then I'm going to work on these edges. So we've got this front edge, kind of cut that in. And then we have this edge here out at the point. So we're going to push that clear glass back away from that point. Make sure that point stays sticking out. That leaves us a place in between. I've been trying to incorporate some self-care practices on the daily. Yesterday I was out torching on the other workbench, and my right hand suddenly very uncomfortable. And I was like, oh great, I'm not going to be able to keep working. So I finished what I was doing, finished one piece, and stopped for a few minutes to try and do a little stretching and massaging, and we do this practice of shaking all different directions. I couldn't tell, I guess it was probably kind of cramped up or something, but it was sore, it hurt. I think the muscle was having a spasm or something. So that was one of those little body trying to tell you something, that take it easy. And it's really important to give yourself a break and actually stretch your hands, stretch your tendons, stretch your arms. Remember to keep breathing. Sometimes you get intent with something and you realize you kind of stopped breathing. I am just deeply grateful to be busy. I'm deeply grateful for you all to check out these videos. It does help us out. It's hard to keep up with as a self-represented artist. There's just so much to do, so many things that you could be doing. But my wife Ray, she's got a new Etsy store set up. It's Bitter Alchemy Art. In the Etsy world, that's all one word, Bitter Alchemy Art. Etsy's gone through a lot of changes through the years. When it first opened up, we were so excited to have an alternative to eBay that was supposed to be just handcrafted American artists. And then it devolved into mass-produced worldwide stuff. Quote-unquote handmade, but became kind of a toxic atmosphere. But we've stuck with it through the years, and so we'll have multiple Etsy stores now. We've got some new management. We have hopes that they may be kind of turning things around. Been in the game as long as we have. The target is always moving as to what's the popular place to present your artwork and make sales. So we'll be kind of transitioning our focus from the Square store that we've had up for the last couple of years, maybe. We had a Shopify store before that. I'm going to kind of focus in on Etsy for a little bit. Okay, melt in that clear. I think we got enough. I could go a bit more, but today is about getting this one done. Successful marble is most important. Doesn't have to be the biggest or best one I've ever made. It's actually quite fascinating to watch hot glass slowly conform into a roundy. It likes to be roundy. And before the whole thing gets too hot and too off, getting wonky, let that cool down. And we have cows back in our field out in front of us. Our neighbor rancher grows hay and cuts hay in the summertime, and then in the fall the cows get to be out there grazing the field. So that's good. We like our cows. They're not our cows, but you know, we kind of take ownership of them. We help look after them. Alright, on the back side, our color lines are going to be jet black, aqua, opaque aqua, and unobtanium. So again, not doing anything too original here, just trying to use some colors that I've used predominantly. It's fun to explore new colors, but a lot of them are problematic when it comes to this particular application. Okay, and we're going to do aqua. And unobtanium. All right, moving along. Well, it's hard to believe this has been 100 episodes. I think one of the early ones didn't get uploaded because it was messed up. I've had a couple that the audio was all screwed up. Yeah, in the early days, of course, I was experimenting with different setup things, different microphones. In particular, that was the big issue, is the microphone, the audio. I kind of got down to what I have now. It works. It's not perfect, but it's a challenging environment with all this noise. And then the cameras. The one overhead camera is a decent camera, but the others are just basically webcam type cameras, and so the visual quality is improved some from the early ones, but the big difference has been really in the tweaking the settings and doing editing adjustments. Okay, we get those colors cooked in. We're going to let this settle down. The next step, breaking this. We really don't want it going off axis. If you rush into it, it gets a little wobbly, wonky. Don't do that. Why are we doing this? I was using tried and true, dependable colors so we wouldn't have this problem. Darn it. Wasn't hot enough. So we got some patchy stuff that's not the best. Okay, well, this takes a little finessing. Well, we're getting it together. Kind of a couple messy spots there. A little bit more touching up as we get a little further down towards completion. But next we will get a puntee on here and start working on the lens side. Alright, we'll just start at the constriction point. the bulk of the marble pretty warm there and kind of expanded it out. I just need to feed in some more clear glass stock to build up that lens. I think we got enough here. We're going to use our constriction roller. We didn't use any frit, so this line around the edge is pretty clean already. Okay, then some of this other glass up here still has quite a bit of fume remnants. Can't do all that fuming without it spilling over and contaminating everything around it. I'm going to start melting this back in, watching to see if there's any messy looking bands or blemishes, hot spots that would indicate a little contamination or a bubble. A big egg shape here. This is one phase where I'm going to try and get the bulk of that marble pretty hot. And I also look at that circumference, it gets kind of wibbly wobbly. Cut that in with the L marver and kind of clean that up. So you're trying to get a good bit of transformation to happen at this point. And at some point you're going to have to switch sides. Kind of cool down a little bit so the puntee switch, the new puntee, has something to hang on to. Rather than cracking off that puntee, I just use pretty much a full fused puntee and then dig it out. Push that little blib in so we don't superheat it. Kind of hard to keep that going with one hand, left hand on the right hand side. Do some fast rotations here to try and pull that together. Start doing a little crude shaping in the marble mold. Squeezing that together. Getting close. Okay, I think we're about there on shaping up the backside. Kind of examine that surface. There was a couple anomalies there that I thought I might have to mess with, but I don't know. I think I'm just going to leave it alone. Okay, so now we have to cool down before we can transfer again. Kind of a two-tiered well there. A little surprised how that turned out, but it's pretty cool. Right. So I don't know if the 3 different colors that I used are going to exhibit a big difference in how they worked with the fume, but it's a little different working on the inside out. If you're working on the surface, you lay down black or cobalt and fume that, and then put down clear on top of that. You'll get a whole different kind of colors and effects. Be very gentle with it at this point. And introduce this very gently. That actually be better with a smaller marble mold on this step. And really heat that front face. Get that to flame polish out any ripples. Final phase is always best just to use the heat, rotation. Look at the reflections of the lights, looking through the lens crosswise. Everything looks pretty smooth. Call it good. So I just need to wait a moment for this to cool down so when I drop it into the marble mold it doesn't leave a mark. Kind of dreamy. Okay. Put this down. Knock that free, and we just have a little tiny bit to polish off. Very good. Yay! Made it through number 100. At least that's what I'm calling it for this weekly Marvel series. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Appreciate all the thumbs up. Give us a comment. Say what the heck you think. Pop this in the kiln. I'm ready to go on to my next adventure to start editing this video. So thanks so much for sticking with us. As always, take care of yourselves. Self-care is very important so that you may take care of others, those around you, those friends and family and co-workers, or just people you meet in public. Let's all be kind, make this world a beautiful place to live in, enjoy beautiful crafts, hands-on, from the heart. Until next time, another adventure, another day. See you then.